Right now today, how many biological males are housed in female prisons under BOP?
Senator, I don't have those numbers in front of me today.
Why don't
but
you?
We could look at them and get back to you.
Why don't you?
I just don't have them top of
Did you
mind.
know you were going to be asked that today?
No, Senator.
Oh, you didn't. Have you been asked that before?
On the record, Senator?
Yes.
I don't recall.
You were asked a year ago in writing, and you failed to answer it in writing. You knew damn well you're going to be asked it today, but you don't want to answer it. Senator Lee asked, why don't you report the numbers? You don't report the numbers because you don't want people to know the numbers. So the fact that you sit there and say, I don't know, he said 1,300. Is that number in the ballpark?
What you just watched is exactly why oversight matters, and why Senator Ted Cruz continues to be one of the most aggressive voices holding the Biden administration accountable. This hearing wasn't about grandstanding. It wasn't about ideology. It was about basic governance, transparency, and public safety, and what stood out immediately is how unprepared and evasive the Bureau of Prisons leadership appeared when confronted with straightforward questions. Senator Ted Cruz didn't ask anything radical. He asked for numbers, facts, and accountability, and what he got in return were vague answers, missing data, and a disturbing lack of urgency around policies that directly affect inmates, prison staff, and local communities. And that raises a serious question. If the people running the prison system don't know the consequences of their own policies, then who exactly is protecting the public? If you're new here, welcome to Congress Lens. I'm Audrey, and on this channel we cut through the noise, break down congressional hearings, and call out power when it dodges responsibility. If you value real accountability, hit subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments, because conversations like this matter. Now let's get into it.
The order is intended, quote, to decrease incarceration levels by reducing profit-based incentives to incarcerate by phasing out the federal government's reliance on privately operated criminal detention facilities. This order has created many unintended consequences, including the closing of the Willacy County Regional Detention Facility in Raymondville, Texas. The decision has had tremendous negative consequences with little to no obvious upside, forcing inmates to travel hundreds of miles round trip for court appearances, impacting the accessibility of legal counsel, and making family visits significantly more difficult. It has also caused administration issues for the prison system and harmed the local economy by eliminating these jobs. Literally every stakeholder that has a role to play in these cases is opposed to this Biden policy. That includes the defense bar, the federal public defender, the U.S. attorney, even the federal bench. All have publicly asked for this policy to be rescinded. Unfortunately, as with the open borders under Joe Biden, the Biden administration doesn't give a damn about how their woke policies actually affect South Texas or the lives of regular people. Ms. Peters, how has Executive Order 14006 impacted the Bureau of Prisons' ability to house inmates, and has it been a negative impact or a positive impact?
Thank you, Senator. So we were able to come into compliance with the executive order the end of last November and bring in those individuals from those facilities that were closed, and we were able to safely absorb them into our current population.
Okay, that you didn't answer my question. How has it impacted the BOP, and has it been positive or negative?
Senator, I don't know that I can put it in a positive or negative category. What I can say
is the defense bar and the U.S. attorney and the federal bench, are they all wrong?
I'm not familiar with their opinions and their reasons for opposing.
Okay, unfortunately, you're illustrating that the Biden administration doesn't care about South Texas if you don't even know the impact it's having on all the stakeholders. All right, let's shift to the topic Senator Lee was just asking you about, because I have to say I found your answers to him thoroughly unacceptable. The 2022 Transgender Offender Manual, issued by the Bureau of Prisons through your predecessors, reverted back to the Obama administration's initial designation and housing programming assignments. Notably, biological sex at birth is no longer the controlling determinant. Right now today, how many biological males are housed in female prisons under BOP?
Senator, I don't have those numbers in front of me today.
Why don't
but
you?
We could look at them and get back to you.
Why don't you?
I just don't have them top of
Did you know you were going to be asked that today?
No, Senator.
Oh, you didn't. Have you been asked that before?
On the record, Senator?
Yes.
I don't recall.
You were asked a year ago in writing, and you failed to answer it in writing. You knew damn well you're going to be asked it today, but you don't want to answer it. Senator Lee asked, why don't you report the numbers? You don't report the numbers because you don't want people to know the numbers. So the fact that you sit there and say, I don't know, he said 1,300. Is that number in the ballpark?
1,300 as it relates to which category, Senator?
Biological males housed in female prisons.
No, that would be a much larger number.
Which is a larger number?
So the number of individuals who even identify as transgender at the Federal Bureau of Prisons is around 1,700. And the number of individuals that are housed in institutions not conforming with their biological sex are very low.
Very low. Are we talking 100? Are we talking 10?
We will look at the numbers. We're talking less than 10.
So your testimony here, I just want to understand, your testimony here today is there are fewer than 10 biological males, human beings that were born male, who are housed in female prisons. Is that your testimony?
That is my understanding, and I will confirm that and get back to you.
Okay. Of the 1,700 prisoners you referenced, how many of them are convicted sex offenders?
I do not know the answer to that, Senator.
Are you aware that Great Britain's numbers, according to a January 2022 report, is the proportion of male-born transgender offenders who are sex offenders in the UK prison system is roughly 60%, significantly higher than the 18% of the general population. Are those numbers consistent with the American numbers?
I'm not familiar with Great Britain's numbers.
So let me ask you this. How many female inmates have been sexually assaulted by biological males who BOP has housed in female prisons?
Senator, I would have to look into that and get back to you.
Do you have an obligation to protect those female prisoners?
Absolutely.
And so have you examined how many women have been sexually assaulted by biological males that BOP has placed in the prison with those women?
I have not, Senator, but I will tell you that safety and security and the placement of every individual in our custody is top of mind and the most important.
So if it's top of mind, why haven't you examined how many have been sexually assaulted? This is an obvious question. If you put a man with male genitals, with a male body in a female prison who's a convicted sex offender, it's not rocket science that there's a real risk those women are going to be victims of sexual assault. How is it possible that you haven't even asked the question, how many women are getting sexually assaulted because of the policies of the Biden administration?
Senator, I assure you that safety and security of these individuals are top of mind. And if
so you haven't asked the question?
If there was misconduct, those individuals would be held accountable.
Thank you, Senator Cruz.
After watching this hearing in full, what's most alarming isn't Senator Ted Cruz's tone, it's how justified that tone was. Let's start with Executive Order 14006. Senator Ted Cruz laid out, in clear detail, the real-world fallout from shutting down private detention facilities, specifically the closure of the Willacy County Regional Detention Facility in Texas. We're talking about inmates being transported hundreds of miles for court appearances, reduced access to legal counsel, families struggling to visit incarcerated relatives, and an entire local economy losing jobs overnight. Those aren't theoretical concerns. Those are tangible consequences. And when Senator Ted Cruz asked Bureau of Prisons Director Colette Peters whether this policy had a positive or negative impact, she couldn't answer. Not because the answer was complicated, but because she simply didn't know. That's not leadership. That's detachment. Even more troubling was Director Colette Peters admitting she wasn't familiar with the objections raised by the defense bar, federal prosecutors, or even federal judges, stakeholders who deal with these consequences every single day. When the people on the ground are sounding alarms and Washington officials don't even know about it, that tells you everything you need to know about how disconnected policymaking has become. Then we get to the most explosive part of this hearing: prison housing policies involving transgender inmates. Senator Ted Cruz asked a very basic, reasonable question. How many biological males are currently housed in female prisons? This was not a surprise question. Director Colette Peters had been asked this before, in writing, and failed to answer then as well. So when she once again claimed she didn't have the numbers, Senator Ted Cruz was right to press harder. Transparency shouldn't be optional. Eventually, Director Colette Peters stated that fewer than 10 biological males are housed in female prisons. That's a claim she said she would confirm later, which in itself raises credibility issues. If the number is truly that small, why not report it clearly and consistently? Even more concerning is what Director Colette Peters didn't know or hadn't bothered to find out. She couldn't say how many transgender inmates are convicted sex offenders. She couldn't say whether any female inmates had been sexually assaulted by biological males placed in female facilities. She admitted she had not even examined the question. Yet in the same breath, she insisted that safety and security are top priorities. Those two statements cannot coexist. Senator Ted Cruz made a point that should not be controversial. If you place biological males, especially convicted sex offenders, into female prisons, there is an inherent risk. Ignoring that risk doesn't make it go away. Refusing to collect data doesn't protect anyone. This wasn't about disrespect. It was about duty of care. Senator Ted Cruz wasn't attacking individuals. He was demanding accountability from a system that has a legal and moral obligation to protect vulnerable women in custody. And the fact that those basic questions haven't even been asked internally should concern everyone, regardless of political affiliation. At the end of the day, this hearing exposed something deeper than policy disagreements. It exposed a federal bureaucracy that implements sweeping changes without tracking outcomes, without measuring harm, and without answering to the people affected most. That's why hearings like this matter. That's why voices like Senator Ted Cruz's matter. And that's why oversight cannot be brushed aside as politics. This is Congress Lens, and we'll keep watching, questioning, and breaking it down.